Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the top 5 new comics for November 27th of 2024. I'm, as always, Chris, and awesome slate of books this week. A bunch of new number ones, some returning number twos, all books that I hope will be on this list for the remainder of their time out on the market, because they all look like they're awesome books, and I'm really excited for all of them. So let's jump into it, starting with Justice League Unlimited #1. This is written by Mark Waid, with art by Dan Mora and colors by Tamra Bonvillain. So, not only is it just exciting that the Justice League is back, it's been roughly 2 years, maybe a little bit longer, since the fall of the Justice League after Dark Crisis. And now, after the events of Absolute Power, realizing that we need the Justice League to be at the head of the DC universe. Sorry, Titans. We're here. The Watchtower is back in action and better than ever. We've had books like The Question and a few others that dive into what's going on at the Watchtower. And we've got this team. I mean, it's a team that at its core, it's got the Trinity, it's got the Flash, but then not only are people like Ray Palmer's Atom and Black Lightning a part of the team, but really anybody can be a part of this team at any point. I think what's kind of ingenious here is that Waid and Mora have enabled it so that everybody is a part of the Justice League now, essentially. So however the story needs to go, we can really shift the team and the members in it to tell different stories. And that makes for some pretty cool storytelling opportunities. We've seen this before with the Justice League. We've seen it before with the Avengers. It's really nothing new, but just having that core of the Trinity at the center of the Justice League is what's most important. But what really has me excited here is not only, and I've said this before, but DC's kind of ingenious ability to do these soft reboots to get us re-excited for their titles and to rebrand things, but also their ability to take off one of the biggest books on the market for 2, possibly longer years, so that when it comes out, it's an event again. It's always very strange to me when something like this is an event, like Justice League coming back. How often does that happen? And with DC happens more often than not, and it's one of those ingenious marketing moves that I give them so much credit for. I just love what they're doing here. And then at its core, if it was just a Justice League book with any team, I would be excited. But what makes it on my top 5, probably the book I will be jumping into first when I get home Wednesday, is that you've got this incredible creative team. Mark Waid and Dan Mora have been working together for a while now at DC. Everybody knows about my thoughts about Batman, Superman, World's Finest they did together. They worked on the Absolute Power series. They're just a creative team to be reckoned with. I mean, Mark Waid's Mark Waid. We all know Mark Waid. His tenure in comics is unprecedented and legendary. Like, the man has left behind so much work across the industry, not just DC, not just Marvel. He's done stuff for IDW, Boom Studios, and you name the company, he's probably been there and done work for them and done great work for them. And then you add in this artist, Dan Mora, who not only do I love Dan Mora's work, like his art is so fucking good, but also I don't know how he puts out so many titles. In a world where, and this is not a dig at any artist, I understand the grind, the pain, the time it takes to be a comic book artist. But in a world where artists are putting out fewer and fewer issues and not able to do the month to month as well, Dan's putting out anywhere from 18 to 24 books a year. And their quality is not like they're being shit out and they're just terrible titles with bad art. They're great. He's currently, so not only is he working on Justice League, not only just finished Absolute Power, he's got issues coming out for Superman right now with Joshua Williamson. It's unreal. I don't know who gave this man the ability to clone himself, but whoever they are, thank you, because his work is amazing. And in all seriousness, I hope that he has a healthy, stable life balance. But with that, keep putting out the great work. If someday you have to tone it down, I'll still be happy to have you in the industry because, goddamn, I love Dan Mora's art. So let's jump from that over to Batman Superman Silent Night Returns #1. This is written by Jeff Parker with art by Lukas Ketner and Michael Bandini, with colors by Marcelo Maiolo and letters by Pat Brosseau. So last year we had the Batman Superman. I'm sorry, I told this wrong. It's Batman Santa Claus Silent Night Returns. We had the Batman Santa Claus Silent Night issues that came out around this time, week-to-week book. I believe it was 5 issues, and it was a blast. Like, I love this time of year. I love Christmas. I love just everything that goes on. I mean, I live in the Northeast. We get snow. It gets festive. It's a great time of year. So everything surrounding around the Christmas season, holiday season, is something I just really enjoy. Just the way that people are just a little bit nicer to each other, that things are a little bit better. It's a special time of year. So I've always really enjoyed like Christmas stuff. They did this book last year and it was a blast. It was this Norse version of Santa Claus teaming up with Batman and his family to fight off Krampus. And now, this year, they're back. They're doing a sequel to it with the same creative team. I think it's going to be so much fun. We see on the cover Batman. We see on the cover Damian Wayne Robin. And Zatanna's joining in on the fun, too. There's a lot of fun here. And I hope this becomes something more regular because it's a great intro into the Christmas season for me. Like, now that Silent Night is here from DC, I really feel like I'm in the Christmas mood. I'm in the Christmas spirit. And there's just something about that. The book last year was just pure joy, pure fun, a cool story, introducing some cool little myths to the DC universe. It's a good time. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend picking up the trade for it. It was a ton of fun. And then check out this one too, because I can only believe it'll be fun. Jeff Parker is one of those underrated writers who puts out these really cool, fun books. He's the one that did the Batman 66 books for a while there, and he's done some other stuff too. It's funny. This will be either 2 or 3 off the pile. Like, I love this series. It's a weekly series, so know that jumping in. We'll be getting every issue week to week leading up to Christmas, and it's just going to be a good little dash of Christmas spirit in your pull list every week. So after that, got Absolute Wonder Woman #2. This is written by Kelly Thompson with art by Hayden Sherman, colors by Jordie Bellaire, and letters by Becca Carey. So I said on my podcast, that's the Fortress Comic News podcast, everybody, that of the 3 Absolute titles so far, Absolute Wonder Woman was probably my least favorite because of how they did the origin story. That being said, and that's just of the #1 issues. I thought that Batman did a really good job of kind of piecing out the origin story little by little. I thought that Superman did a good job of condensing it into a small portion and then moving on. Where Absolute Wonder Woman felt like a majority of the issue was the story. And really just got her to a place where here's Wonder Woman, this version, the origin. Here's the big threat coming up. Now, what's exciting about that is, while I may not have enjoyed the way the origin story was delved out as much as the others, and this being said, I absolutely loved all 3 of these Absolute books. So we're grading this from a scale of like 10 to 8. Not like Wonder Woman was a 1 to me or something. It was still up there with some of the better books coming out. But now that origin story is kind of done, and we can move on from it. Now we can just go straight into Wonder Woman now. Moving on. Action. Her fighting this giant kaiju-like creature coming to take over everything. Her using the Buster sword, if you will, and all these things. So I'm really excited that this book could move up that list for me just because now we've shed the origin story and moved on. Where something like Batman that I really enjoyed, we just had issue 2 of that. We're still kind of trickling in the origin story a little bit here. So there's still those moments. And for those that don't know, like, I'm not the biggest fan of origin stories. I just think that at times we put too much emphasis on them. And a lot of people around me joke around that I hate origin stories. I don't hate origin stories. Mostly I hate Batman, Superman's origin stories. Like, we don't need them. Everybody knows. When it comes to other books, I just think the style of storytelling I enjoy as a reader, as a watcher, as someone who wants to be entertained, is kind of piece it out to me. Throw me into the world, let me see what you have, and then trickle in the origin stories, which is why Batman was my favorite, because that's exactly what that book did. Enough of Batman. We've got Diana now. She's on Earth. She, while raised in hell, knows that she's an Amazon, a part of this race that was wiped out. And now she's here to see what she can do to bring hope to the world through her actions, even though she has this badass look with this giant Buster sword. So I'm really excited to see where Kelly Thompson and crew take Absolute Wonder Woman. I think this Absolute Universe initiative at DC has been phenomenal, and to continue to be stoked to see more. And I'll just say at the where Absolute is right now with these 3 titles, you can do any character, and I'm going to pick up at least the number 1, check it out. Like, I'm not a guy who likes the Flash. I'll pick up Absolute Flash just because I think they've done some really cool, unique things here, and they've put a lot into this world to show that it's not just an Earth 2. It's something more. Enough of that. Let's move over to Marvel with West Coast Avengers number 1. This is written by Gerry Duggan with art by Danny Kim. I've said, like, being the big Marvel fan I am, I've said if it says Avengers in the title, I try it out. I love the Avengers. I love the idea, just like with Justice League. I love the idea of a group of superheroes coming together and having to work together as a team in some way. There's something about it. It's ingrained in me as a comic book fan. And being a Marvel guy, the Avengers is that team. The Avengers, for me, is the quintessential superhero team. And I know for others, it's Justice League, and I respect that. Just for me, as a guy who grew up on Marvel, who loves Marvel, the Avengers is that. The West Coast Avengers is traditionally the one that I don't mesh with very well. It's that off-brand Avengers team that just... the team never clicks in the way that I want it to. It's never the characters I want. That being said, a lot of the characters in this team, not a huge fan of. Like, I like them when they show up, but do I buy their solo books? No, I'm going to be honest with y'all. Like, we've got a team here. We've got Iron Man, War Machine. We've got Spider-Woman. We've got Jean Grey, who's now the Phoenix again. That right there, I'd check it out, see what it's all about. I doubt I'd stick around. And it definitely wouldn't be on this top 5 list. So why isn't it on the top 5 list? Well, Gerry Duggan's a quality writer who I really enjoy. He's done a lot of good things at Marvel. I don't read a ton of his stuff because, honestly, he does a lot of X-Men stuff, and I'm not the biggest X-Men guy. But Gerry has done some really quality runs outside of X-Men at Marvel that I've very much enjoyed. Danny Kim's a quality artist. Done some great work throughout the industry. The real reason I'm buying this title. Ultron is a part of this fucking team. Why is Ultron a part of this team? I don't know. I haven't really seen Ultron much in Marvel recently. I don't read everything Marvel does. I don't read everything DC does. Characters slip by. That's the nature of being a comic book fan. Like, sometimes you don't know where characters run, even if it's a character you love, like Ultron. One of my favorite characters of all time is MODOK. MODOK was in I think it was Uncanny X-Men recently, or no, Uncanny Avengers, whatever that book was recently. I didn't read it. I don't know what happened with him. I love Ultron. I mean, who doesn't love Ultron? If you're a Marvel fan, Ultron's up there with some of the best villains of all time. Ultron's on the West Coast Avengers. That's what gets it on this top 5. Like, I want to know what's going on with Ultron. Is he redeemed? Is he trying to be redeemed? What's he doing on this team? And what is he trying to do here? Like, in a solicit, it says that he wants to go on a straight and narrow, that he wants to kind of redeem himself from his past. And then there's the question, like, I'll even quote, and can any amount of heroics really absolve Ultron of his past? There is that too. Like, I honestly, I think a lot of these villains, it's funny when they do this because there is no redeeming them. But we'll see. I think it's going to be an interesting combo. Like, you got Ultron and Tony Stark. And not only that, but I feel like when you see how this team is built, Tony being the head, Tony's a guy that has been on the Avengers forever. He's on the main Avengers team. He's been on so many. He's rarely the guy in charge, although he is usually the guy that Cap goes to. And to see him in charge of this team, bring this kind of misfit group together, it's a little weird. They also put War Machine on it. But you've got his buddy War Machine to help him out. You've got Spider-Woman, who is just this great superhero of her own right, who's done so many things, who works well on a team. You've got Ultron, who's this villain that the Avengers have fought so many times over the years, and him trying to redeem himself with part of his team. And I feel like the Phoenix is there to blink out Ultron if something happens. Like, to just be like, fuck you, if something happens. There's so many cool back and forths that could happen here. There's so many cool dynamics, and I'll be really interested in this book. Like, it looks really cool. It's a good creative team. It's a Marvel #1 with Avengers in the title. So I'm super excited for this one. When this one was announced, I was blown away that it exists. So we will see with it, but I am really excited for it. And let's go ahead and end with Hyde Street #2. This is written by Jeff Johns with art by Ivan Reese, inks by Danny Miki, and colors by Brad Anderson. So I really loved Hyde Street #1. I thought it was a cool little intro to this Twilighty horror universe that Johns and Reese are creating here. Then there was the side book, Devour, that didn't really hit it well for me. I thought it was okay. And I think it was a weird spot for them to put in this anthology book with none of the original creators on it right after the #1 came out, and we barely knew what Hyde Street was, although we did have an intro. So now we're at #2. We're back with the original creative team. So I'm really excited that, like, they're going to get to continue telling their story. And it seems like what we're doing here is each issue is going to tell a different story of some of the people on Hyde Street. We saw, I guess, spoilers for #1, but we saw at the end of #1 that there's a hierarchy, that you know, there's a point thing going on, that if you get so many points, you can leave Hyde Street, which seems to be a kind of purgatory for maybe bad people, maybe just people that got unlucky, and they can move on to whatever's next. And we met this guy who was kind of at the bottom rung of that, who seemed to be the main character of the story. Maybe he's just the one who's going to introduce us to the world. I don't know. But along the way, we saw different characters inside the Hyde Street. And one was this little kid who was a Boy Scout, but, you know, for obvious reasons, not a Boy Scout. And he was very interesting because he was very sadistic and very just fucked up. But it was wrapped in this, like, cute little boy who was in this Boy Scout uniform, who was then ushering people into death in some of the most cruel ways you could think of. So we're going to center the book around this issue, around that character, get a better introduction to who he is and how he thinks. It's going to be very interesting. So I think after one issue, I'm going to say if you're interested in Hyde Street, skip Devour. I personally did not think that Devour was that great. I think it was just okay. And just some of the story elements bugged me from a personal point of view. Read number 1, check out number 2 if you like number 1, because I just think that there's going to be some cool things happening in this book. Not the biggest horror guy, but it's a quality horror book with one of the best pencilers in comics ever. As they say in the solicit, like this is the creative team that brought Blackest Night and the Aquaman book for New 52. Like, those are 2 really great DC titles. Yeah, I'm super excited for this book, and look forward to all 5 of these. This is a little behind the scenes. Every week I put up top 5. Some weeks are better than others. That's just fact. Some weeks it's harder to get a top 5 than others. This week I had like 7 or 8 because there were so many good books coming out. And these books in particular just got me off my seat, so excited to talk about and want to read, that they had to be the top 5 this week. So it's going to be a good week of comics. I'm really excited as we, in the U.S., enter the Thanksgiving season, get our turkey in. Hopefully don't go too crazy for Black Friday and move on to the Christmas season. So I'm really excited for this week, folks. But everybody, that is everything for this video. If you want to support me, best ways on this video, like the video, comment down below what book you're most looking forward to this week, what book didn't make my list that should have, what travesty I didn't put on the list, those type of things. And also subscribe to the channel where you can get all these videos I do every week, as well as the interviews we always do. The Fortress Comic News podcast is also posted on this channel. And then outside of this, we've got the Substack at chriscomicscorner.substack.com. And as I've said like 4 times now, the podcast, Fortress Comic News, you can find podcatchers everywhere. Check it out. It's a ton of fun. And we're getting close to 400 episodes, everybody. I'm so excited. And you can follow me on social media, whether that's X, Blue Sky, Threads, you name it. I'm there posting stuff. It's at Fortress Chris. Thank you all so much for watching this week. And I'll see you all here next week.